Turning back now to that horrific mass shooting in Buffalo. The community is mourning 10 people killed in Saturday's shooting, including a grandmother, a sister, a retired police lieutenant, a deacon, a civil rights advocate, a substitute teacher. CBS News national correspondent Jericka Duncan is in Buffalo, where she has spoken to family and friends of some of the victims. Jericka, good to see you. You worked in Buffalo for a number of years, so you know the community well, and you've been sort of knocking on doors and speaking to family and friends. What are you hearing from them?
Well, you know, Anne-Marie, you know, as our time in Philly as a reporter, that knocking on doors is never easy. You never know if it's too soon, if emotions are too raw, if people want to talk. But oftentimes they realize how important it can be to also make sure the narrative gets out about innocent lives lost. So you had, you know, a couple people who they have no comment, they have no statement. You know, we knocked on the door of the man who was working security, a former lieutenant here with the Buffalo Police Department, Aaron Salter. His family still very much in shock. They even had a sheriff actually parked in front of their home to sort of field people, reporters, whatnot, coming up asking if they had anything that they wanted to say. But then we went by an address where Roberta Drury, the youngest victim, 32 years old, lived, and her boyfriend and Drury's best friend were on the porch, and we started talking to them about what happened. And over, you just hear the sadness in people's voice. You hear the anger, especially because of how they were killed. What we're now learning more and more about the alleged shooter, the details, the meticulous planning of this attack. So it's very difficult for the people who are left trying their best to make sense of what happened, and it's senseless. But they're surrounding themselves with family. Some are coming to TOPS to get counseling. Some of the employees that they were offering counseling nearby at this TOPS. And just really doing the best that they can. And as somebody who lived here, worked here, I have friends here that I consider family, it's going to be a tough road ahead. It really is, Anne-Marie.
I think that, you know, the thing that has hit many people, not just those living in Buffalo, was that this happened at a grocery store. I mean, it's a regular Saturday. It's such a mundane activity, right? Picking up a few things at a grocery store. And I just was thinking about the story that you did yesterday with the young man who didn't want to appear on camera. But you know, as you're talking to him, you're describing how he's shaking. And I thought, this guy's going to be suffering from PTSD for sure. But I have friends, too, who called me about this incident. And, you know, one of my friends said, and she doesn't live anywhere close to Buffalo, she said, I feel hunted. And I think that there's something about the fact that this happened at a grocery store that just makes many people feel uneasy. I'm wondering if you got that, if anyone expressed that to you while you were out talking to people.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think there's also sort of a feeling for African Americans, for black people like myself, who also now feel like you really have to be on guard. You already feel like you have to be on guard in this country. And what happened here on Saturday, if you're not looking at people a second time or wondering, could you be next? I don't know what country you're living in. I really don't, because it hits close to home, not just because I lived here, but because this shooter talked about targeting black people, black and brown people, Jewish people, you know, feeling as though these marginalized groups are taking over. And I think that when you look at some of the rhetoric online, you look at people that already are supporting and sharing, and Jeff Pegay's piece, he pointed that out. It's sickening. It's really sickening and discouraging, but I think we have to lean in on more people don't show those types of that type of plan of attack, or aren't, you'd like to believe, have that type of hatred in their heart. But it's a time to reflect, but it's also I'm almost at a loss for words, because I've covered mass shootings before. And none of them are easy.
Yeah.
None of them are easy.
I
Anne-Marie.
totally understand that as well. There's so many questions that we still have, and later on, you know, here on CBS News, we're going to be digging into like who this guy was, you know, what his philosophy was, and if you can gain any understanding into what led him to that point, we're going to try to do that. Jericka Duncan in Buffalo, thank you so much.